Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all, best Star Wars background character.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Great. And I'm going to open up this document.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to put that on a separate page so that I can swipe and still see you boys.
That's a good idea. Oh, yeah, I can do that this way as well. Look at us.
Oh, my God. You went so far beyond 78.
Yes.
There are 140.
I held back.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Jedi Padawan who fights close to St. Paul, played by Jet Lucas. What? All right, hold on. Okay. Hey, Mark. You know what? That was the beginning right there. It was my shock. So
are we going to start? Are we just going to start with Hal?
We're already in it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is already it. We're already in it.
Oh, we're recording?
Yeah. So
cool.
Welcome to how we begin an episode.
Yeah. Forget the orderly, like, hello, welcome to this. We have a set pattern so that people know where they are and don't feel confused. I'm so shocked here. Okay. So Adam Richards suggested this topic. Thank you to Adam Richards.
Thank you, Adam.
Get that out of the way. Adam, that's the last night you'll hear your name on this podcast. I swear. Until you suggest something else. Your name's off. It's out of our mouths. So
why are you so mad at Adam?
Well, I'm not mad at Adam. I'm not mad at him at all. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm in shock, and this is my fight or flight is kicking it. So when
we got fight or flight,
That's Joseph Scrimshaw, everybody. Hello, Joseph, and welcome.
Hello. Joseph, first of all, it is so lovely to have you back. You are a delight on this show.
Yes.
You have such a knack and a way of being able to go so deep in a topic. Last time we talked about Doctor Who, and yet still make everything accessible to those of us, I'm pointing at myself, who do not necessarily know a ton about a thing. So thank you for your insight, your knowledge, your kindness, and your patience.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me back in your living rooms through the internet.
That's right.
Yeah. And you know a lot about Doctor Who. There's no disputing that. Mm-hmm. But for me, like the thing that I would say you know the most about in pop culture is Star Wars. You are, there's Force Center and then Obsessed, where you talk to people about their obsessions, but you're obsessed with Star Wars. One of the things that is obsession of yours and mine as well. You know, I love it as well.
Yeah.
And Kate McManus, who does the research for this show, is also a big Star Wars fan. So when I went to her yesterday and said, hey, we're going to do best Star Wars background character. And we'll get to like what ground rules are in a minute. Cause this is a bit of a mishmash here trying to figure out like what is background versus is it a minor character? And the initial sheet, and I think I added like 12 characters to it. Mm-hmm. It was already in the, what was it, around 70 something?
When I first looked at this document that was sent to us by Joseph and Kate McManus, Joseph, you remember this. You said, hey, Kate and I made up a little list of some Star Wars background characters that we can talk about. I was like, okay. And I opened up the list and there were 78 background characters from the Star Wars universe that you just thought of. I'm guessing off the top of your head, at least 60 of them.
Yeah, so Kate had added hers, and this was great. I hadn't super interacted with Kate before, and I could tell by the characters that she thought of what kind of Star Wars fan she is, what were her preferred parts of Star Wars.
Oh,
so that was nice. I've never really deeply got to know anybody through a Google Doc before, so that was very nice.
That's fun.
And then this morning, I spent 3 hours adding the rest to get to like 130. And I super held myself back.
Yeah.
Like, a lot.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Joseph.
Yeah.
The next time I opened this document, there were 130 on it.
Poor Mark. How many of them would you say you knew just off the bat?
Well, that's the thing. Because, we had initially, zero.
Okay.
Initially. No. I'm going to know many of these. And it does help that you've got like a line that they said or a scene that we remember them from.
Yeah.
I do have one favorite background character that I'm sure we will get to, who I just like happened to catch in a single panning shot in one of the movies. And I went, who is that? And now that character has a whole backstory. And like people have been, this is the mythology of our times. This is people fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But because we had said minor character was how it was originally.
Well, background was the suggestion.
Background was the suggestion.
That was the suggestion.
So Hal added minor character. And I was like, oh, I can't believe how far off we are, because he said, well, what's the best minor character in Star Wars? And my first thought was like, oh, probably Lando. Yeah.
Seemed easy.
Yeah. That was what my temperature of what a minor character was. Apparently my thermometer is way off.
Yeah.
This doc is like the Federalist Papers in Hamilton. It's like Kate McManus added the first 70 characters. Hal added 8. Scrimshaw added the other 912.
Why do you write like it's going?
Visit Canto Bite like it's going out of style.
But it is amazing that you have this encyclopedic knowledge. So should we just dive in and start talking about them?
Yeah, I think we
can
should
we define minor versus background?
Yes.
I'm obsessed with that. Just to give it some background, I have the honor of doing this Star Wars podcast, Force Center, and I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and been a big Star Wars fan my whole life. But that really connected me into a community of people who want to go super deep, and that has really changed my perspective for myself of what is minor, and it's reminded me that like sometimes people have just like such. It's like Star Wars is goofy, and a lot of these characters are goofy, and it's a great thing to goof around. And we're gonna on this podcast, but like then there are things that like matter to people. So like this is a peek into my psyche. It was kind of going back and forth with. I was trying to figure out with Hal whether or not it was a minor or background, and I saw that Mon Mothma had been added as a background character last night when we were still trying to figure it out. Nobody's fault at all, and I kind of had a mini freak out of like I cannot say on a podcast that Mon Mothma is a minor character in Star Wars. I will hear about that on the internet for 7 years. She's the leader of the rebellion. The entire leader. She has very little screen time, portrayed by two different actors.
Yes, she's the one that looks like a Greek goddess in like the all white. With the red hair.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah. She gives a briefing in Return of the Jedi, and then she features more prominently in Rogue One. She was cut out of Revenge of the Sith, blah, blah, blah. But like, so there's those delineations. Like for me, background character in my mind is weirdos who have very few lines in the cantina and Canto Bite, blah, blah, blah. And then there's those characters who don't feature much on screen, but are like huge to the overall myth of Star Wars.
So I think because, and you were the one who laid this out, Joseph, which I think was smart, which is let's stick to the movies. Because once we get into Clone Wars or Rebels or any either, what is it, Legends universe? Is that the
new one is Resistance.
Well, Legends is like the stuff that used to be canon and is not canon anymore.
Right.
And then you have the actual universe, which includes a lot of books.
You mean the two sections on Wikipedia where there's like the canon section and then the legend section. Got it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's better if we're going to just go by the movies, then somebody like Mon Mothma is a minor character in terms of screen time, but a major character in terms of her importance to the overall arc of Star Wars. Does it make sense for the purposes of this to limit it at like, assume we're all Mark who has only seen movies? And me too. I've mostly seen. Okay.
I probably watched more Clone Wars and
that's true. You have
Clone Wars and
Rebels.
Yeah. Than you have.
Yeah.
Just because
true.
of,
you definitely have.
Because I decided I was before the last movie I was going to go and I was going to watch everything chronologically.
Oh, wow.
So, plugging Solo in where it fits in the story in Rogue One and all that. But also going through and, so I'm going to pause after Attack of the Clones and I'm going to watch the Clone Wars. And then I'm going to pause after this one and I'm going to watch this and try to get a full scope of the narrative of Star Wars. Because look, I'm frequently a dilettante in the more sci-fi fantasy niche pursuits, but Star Wars is one that I actually kind of know pretty well.
Yes. Well, then let me amend that. You do know well. I know that you don't.
I wasn't like personally insulted. I usually don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah.
In this
I greatly appreciate the evolution that we're all of the generation that it used to be embarrassing to know too much about Star Wars, and now we're like, hey, I know plenty about Star Wars.
I know enough.
You don't need to judge me on the playground.
I think it makes sense. So this isn't a 9-hour episode to keep it to what we see on screen. So Bail Organa is a more important character when you expand the mythology. And even in the films, he's the reason why Leia survives because he agrees to take her. Outside of that, he is somewhat minor in terms of his screen time use.
Right.
And I think I would make a distinction there of screen time, but I don't think the winner should be someone who has a huge canon story that we see on screen for 90 seconds.
I think that also we can, if we're going minor or background, and if we want to keep it to background, I mentioned this earlier in a text. I think we can keep it to legit, like show business rules, like background means no lines.
Okay, that'll cut a lot of these, which would be, I'm in your cantina. I will do whatever you gentlemen say.
But but are we eliminating too many characters? And am I giving an unfair advantage to silent characters like Boba Fett, who shows up?
But he speaks.
Oh, does he speak? When does he speak?
Multiple times in
He's
Empire.
got a lot to say in
Empire. It's worth a lot to me. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He does.
He doesn't speak. He only has a Wilhelm scream in Return of the Jedi.
In Return, yeah. But in
he also
Empire,
has a lot to say he's in Attack of the Clones as well.
Yeah, as a kid.
Oh, that's right.
Hello, Diddy. It's me, Boba Fett. Remember what I sounded like before? I don't sound like that anymore. Now I sound like this.
Later on,
young Boba Fett was in What We Do in the Shadows. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. One day I'm going to be Aquaman's dead.
But I mean, look, if we want to keep it, I don't know that we need to handicap ourselves too much, because then you get into things like, well, Salacious Crumb laughed. Is that a line? You know,
right? Do you want to go under 5? Make it like
let's make them, any of the under 5s. That's great.
Okay,
like 5, around 5 lines. Like that would be minor enough, but also background. What I was pitching also was we'll have you back, Joseph, for a subsequent episode, and we can dig into the minor characters who are not leads, but are maybe bigger in the universe itself.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds great.
I think this person is like, I want to know of all the droids that are on the Sandcrawler and all of the aliens who are at the cantina. And like all the weirdos that are in Jabba's court. Like, I think that's what they're looking for, including that one. What is that creature called? The one outside of Jabba's palace
that's like, the wart. It's the space dog. Yeah.
And he just eats something. He just goes like a frog eating a fly.
That guy. I thought of that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just sits that big space toad.
Yeah. This just sits there and waits for people walking to Jabba's place to drop crumbs. So real quick about this list, with what you were just saying about the idea of background, I tried to, and Kate certainly did this too, I tried to grab a couple representatives. So like this would have been thousands long if I had listed every Cantina person and every background Jabba person. So I tried to grab some representative ones, not complete at all.
That sounds great. So with that in mind, does that make sense to you, Joseph? Because we both defer to you. Not only to that we're being respectful to the fandom overall, but that you personally feel like, all right, I can grok this and we can move forward with it. I hate that I use that word.
What does grok mean?
Word. It means understand, but it's really corporate. Like, can you I think it's like something that corporate people took from cool people and then it immediately died and withered. Like, you think you can grok what's on the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
No.
The corporate world was Alaska Airlines and grok was previously Virgin American.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. They took it and made it uncool.
Yeah. But does that work for you, Joseph?
Absolutely.
And should we go movie by movie?
Yeah, sure.
That'll be the easiest, I think, just to remember where we are.
Yes.
Okay.
Makes sense to me.
And speaking of gonk, let's start in Star Wars, the first film that started it all.
Okay, you want to go in order of theatrical
release. Go in order of theatrical release.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we should start by talking about Star Wars, because I don't want to spend a long time on 1, 2, and 3.
I got bad news for you. There's more background characters in the prequels.
Sure, because it's a lot easier to draw a digital one than it is to find a rubber costume in storage.
Yeah, to put a Wolfman mask on a guy and then name him Lax Sivrak. Yeah, it is easier.
Have you played this game? How do you get your Star Wars name as your favorite pasta, and then you just put a space somewhere in the middle?
No, that's great.
So that was on the internet. Somebody put that on there. My favorites being Capelin 1 and Lasag Na.
Well, I'm Spag Hetty.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm Rotin 1.
Yeah. There could be a lot of ones in it. I could be Manicotti 1. Yeah. Or Manicotti Thai.
There are a lot of great sort of background characters, including you brought up the Gonk, which is the GNK. It's a power droid, right? Isn't it a giant walking battery?
Yeah, it's a battery on legs.
Yeah, and it just goes gonk, gonk, which may be its own language or may just be an internal noise of its motor going.
Yeah, I think it's probably just saying battery low, battery low.
Yeah.
That's my headcanon.
It's the equivalent of the chirping of a fire alarm. Like your battery's dead, just every 45 seconds.
Yeah, I think what's great about Gonk is, and it's something when you talk about background or minor characters that would at least be a good criteria, even if he doesn't 100% fill it, is you remember him really, really well. There are a lot of characters on here that you may not remember seeing. It just didn't grab you. But this one just feels like he kind of takes you through the shot, and he's the biggest robot there, or the biggest droid rather. And he's making his signature like that. Everybody can identify him very quickly.
I think that's going to be a part of it too, is it's not necessarily going to be a character that we know anything about. We just know either like that is an iconic shot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like just something you remember from an iconic shot, like the werewolf mask turning its head.
Yeah. So you're thinking of like aesthetic charm of like, ooh, what is that? I want to know more about that as it passes by on the screen for 2 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and this is a way we could look at it. We can look at it either, are we going to look at, is a Gonk more valuable in this particular best background character than a Wedge Antilles, who is in every movie, including 9, or in every original movie. And then he comes back in 9, like Luke's buddy on the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't think of, I guess I can think of iconic moments of Wedge, but there's not like one shot, like, or, you know, Admiral Moti or Moti, how do you say his name? This station is now the ultimate power in the universe, and then Vader chokes him. Like the guy that gets choked by Vader.
Yeah.
You're pro, that level character, a quick Vader choking.
Yeah. Or there's one character that I love. I think it's in episode 4, and I'm sure you know this, Joseph, where 2 guys have to have a video call with Vader, and one of them is clearly like very, very scared.
It's an Empire.
Is it an Empire?
Yeah, you're probably thinking of Piet.
Do you know their names? You know who these guys are?
I think you're thinking of Firmus Piet. He's the one yes, it could be.
He goes
PM-
to apologize, right?
That's Nita.
That's
Nita's the one who
that's right.
apologizes. Yes,
apology
and gets
accepted,
choked.
Captain Nita.
Yeah. But there's a lot of frightened Imperials to choose from.
As I'm thinking about this, maybe going movie by movie is not a great idea, and it might be a better idea to go location by location.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Go with like the people who are on the Imperial ships versus now let's talk about Mos Eisley. Now let's talk about Jabba's party barge.
That's only thing we don't have the document set up for.
Oh, that's true. All right, let's stick with movies then.
Yeah, but I mean, you can see the Imperial guys are sort of all together there.
Yeah.
Trying to think who else is somebody that stands out. Who's somebody that stands out to you, Joseph, when you think of like a classic minor or somebody in the background from the first film?
Okay, so a couple of the ones from the list in episode 4 that to my mind go to perfect background character. One is Moman Adun.
Okay.
Probably better known to people of our generation as Hammerhead, because that was his action figure name.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in Thorian. He, if you collected the action figures, he has, the weird bendy head. He's brown with the eyes. And then he had in the action figure, for no reason whatsoever, a blue onesie jumpsuit. Like he was a giant spindly brown creature infant thing. And then he got developed as having the name Moman Adun. But he's one of those, just the camera rests on him. He lives in our imagination partially because he was an action figure, but partially because in that cantina scene in 1977, it was just like, that's alien. That's freakish weird.
That is kind of a perfect one. I went into this thinking that whatever we picked from episode 4 was probably going to be one of those really fun characters from the cantina, because that's kind of the whole point of the cantina scene is here's this music. Look at all these interesting characters for a few seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the whole function in the thing, is to set the stage. And I think that's kind of a perfect example.
Nice.
Yeah.
The other one who jumps out at me, and full credit to Kate for adding him to this list, because I think is a great insight. The stormtrooper who hits his head on the door.
Absolutely.
That's me. I added him.
Oh, you did. Full credit to Hal.
That is, I mean, as background goes, like that's got to be the only background character that has his own, like, well, that's not true. That has his own mythology, but like that a mistake like that has become, there
is a guy in Empire Strikes Back whose name escapes you right now, who is running around Cloud City, and it's very quick. So if you're just watching, it's like, oh, he's got some sort of alien technology, but he's running around with an ice cream maker. And that is his thing. And
that's Wilro Hood.
Thank you. Wilro Hood. Yeah. Wilro Hood has his own action figure that was released later at cons. It's sort of like a spoof, but that's a character that is in, like, they created a name for him.
It's so good.
Because he's, who's the ice cream maker guy? He's Wilro Hood. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, his legend lives long. Like, that action figure was demanded by fans and was a full main release. You could walk into Target or Walmart and buy a man in an orange jumpsuit with an ice cream maker. The ice cream maker has now become canon as a kind of safe called a Camtono in The Mandalorian. It's a whole thing.
So it's not like it was legit the ice cream maker on the Death Star, like from the commissary.
No, he was Cloud City. He was in
Cloud City. Got it.
Yeah, it was. That's so great about these original trilogy movies. Like, they're making them relatively fast. It's stressful. Like, you take a thing you're going to run by for a second. Yeah. You know, there's not going to be people doing podcasts about this 40 years from now. What's a podcast? Like, yeah, that was not a consideration.
Yeah, his actual canon name was Baskin Robbins. And he worked in the commissary at Cloud City.
But everybody just called him 32. 32, get to your post.
Yes.
Mr. Flavors, get to your post.
Mr. Flavors. I'm sorry, but was your other one? Your other one was the stormtrooper.
The stormtrooper hits his head, which he's pretty fascinating. Real quick, because it's rare that you go on Wikipedia and they say unidentified. In canon, he has not been given a number, like, you know, stormtroopers have numbers, like TK-421, who gets called in A New Hope. The other thing is, there is a pitched battle between different actors to convince the world that they were the actor in the suit who bumped their head. I have a friend named Jamie Stangroom, who's a very funny a British man who he works for the BBC and does fun side projects. He made a whole documentary about who is the real stormtrooper who hit their head.
Oh, did he discover the truth?
Did he find out the actor?
Well, no. I mean, it's a couple people claiming, so you have to go through the evidence to see if you believe them.
Wow.
Oof.
That's incredible.
Coming out of episode 4.
Well, I have a couple. So you've each thrown a couple. May I throw a couple out there?
Please.
One is Figrin Dan, who is the band leader of the Modal Nodes, and is playing the cool horn.
That's the thing that looks like an oboe, right?
Yeah. His face is a butt. They play, the music is called jizz music. They all have buttholes for mouths. They're unlike the Seals of the Max Rebo band. They all are the same. They're all Biff. I think everybody in the band is Biff.
Yep,
they're all just playing together and having a good old time.
Having a great time jizz wailing.
Yeah, they're jizz wailing. But he's like one of those kind of stand-up, like, you just sort of remember him, and he's has the benefit of being associated with that music. That is the music you hear is the music that they are playing.
Like, you can't picture that guy and not hear dun 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 dun.
Exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
And you can kind of imagine his life, right? Because you can imagine, like, well, that he's clearly a pretty great musician. He sounds like, you know, Benny Goodman in space. What the hell happened in his life that he's playing this crappy cantina on this backwater planet? Like, I mean, as entertainers, that would be like if you saw somebody just like amazing and like, wow, look at Mark Gagliardi and Hal Lublin doing improv. And why are they doing it in this horrible place? They're so good.
Welcome to Arby's, everybody. I'm Hal Lublin. This is Mark Gagliardi. Enjoy your horsey sets.
We're going to do some jizz improv for you. And
we're going to jizz whale in the improv.
What is this jizz whaling thing? Why do we keep saying that?
That's the music. That's the genre of music.
That's the genre. They made up that genre, and that's what they went with for a name.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I bet George Lucas didn't know what it was.
That's a lot of this stuff got named in like around 89 by a role-playing game, and a lot of it just stuck.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I have two more. I have one more.
Okay.
It might be good to have each of us pitch 3 people per movie and then figure it out.
That's a lot of pitches.
But then the prequels,
that's 9 for 9 movies.
How about this? We give each of the original films, each of the original 3 we can pitch, and then just one for the prequels and one for the sequels.
No.
Great.
Like 3 apiece. I mean, like 3, like we don't do 3 for Phantom Menace. Like
I'm not going to need 3 for any of these.
You don't like that, Joseph?
I've already done mine for this one, which is
okay.
With the ones that are already out there.
My argument real quick is we're biased. We're already biased by growing up as original trilogy generation. Yes. I will not participate in further biasing against prequel or sequel.
Fair enough. I'll give you one more, which is, so Dr. Cornelius, Evazan, am I saying that right? Yeah. Evazan? He is the man who has the death penalty in, 12 Systems.
Oh, the guy who faces the Phantom of the Opera?
He speaks a lot, but his friend Ponda Baba, who is the guy who he's a walrus man in the original 12 action figures, but it has been named Ponda Baba, who gets his arm cut off by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because he's like, the only thing he does is go like, and then and then along comes this doctor who knows where he went to medical school, and and Ponda Baba winds up losing his arm.
I like both of them. I think that if we're staying in Mos Eisley Cantina for right now, and we're going to pull one out of Mos Eisley to battle against the guy that hits his head, which is where it seems like my brain at least is going for this. I think that Hammerhead and Space Benny Goodman,
Space Benny Goodman.
I think they accomplish more with less.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like Walrus Man, I'm like, what did he look like again? I remember the Phantom of the Opera dude with the pug nose, but those other ones are so vividly like boom, boom. I know exactly those images in my mind. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Yes. So I'm going to mark these down. So we have Figure and Dan. We have the stormtrooper who hit his head. We have Momar Nadan.
Moma.
What was it? Moma?
Yeah. M-O, then Ma. M-A-W.
Moma Nadan. And that's it? Those 3?
Yeah.
Is there another one? Okay. Great. So then we move on to...
Wait. Let's pick one from this movie. Yeah.
You don't want to take them all together.
No. Let's pick one from each movie, and then we'll.
All right. So what? I mean, Joseph, what do you think?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, for me, I would much rather reward craftsmanship than error. So, as fun as it is to say the stormtrooper hit his head on the doorframe, I would like it to be one of the ones from Mos Eisley Cantina. And if craftsmanship is a factor in this, I think that Figure and Dan has that on 3 fronts. It's got the performance of the actor, the skill of the designer who created the character and the people who built it, and also the music. I think that's a perfect sort of encapsulating moment in one character. What do you guys think?
I can agree with that. And I think another factor that is fun for me is how much does the character fire your imagination? Because I think that's the joy of these background characters is going, what else is going on with them? And I think Figure and Dan does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is a good point. I was going to say, I think that Hammerhead just sort of like his only shot is like him like sort of rotating at the camera.
Yeah.
So there's really, and they came up with an incredible story where he's like he tends a garden and he hid like rebels in his garden and after like saving his people by cutting a deal with the Empire, like for a piece of rubber that turns on camera, he has become a fully fleshed, like, freedom fighter who's running some sort of, like, secret, like he's part of some secret, like, I'll shelter the rebels here in my garden.
It's almost like Star Wars has this ability, like you were talking about before, Joseph, of, like, Carl Jung talked about the collective unconscious. It's like Star Wars has opened up the collective imagination. The combination of Star Wars and the internet has, like, this amazing imagination where there are hundreds of thousands of people yes-anding one another, all of this stuff into existence. And it's like, great, now that's a legend. So that's part of these movies. The number of people who have added to this story and this mythology is so incredibly vast and cool.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I think for episode 1, I think I'm really good with Friggin' Dan. What's his name?
Finger Dan.
Finger Dan, episode 4.
Friggin' Danny.
Friggin' Danny over here.
All right, let's go. Let's move on to episode 5. The Empire Strikes Back.
I think there's some really good stuff in here. Personally.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room, which is not Efont Man because he's in Return of the Jedi.
Wait, who is this?
It's a drive-by joke. It is useless to our purpose. In Empire Strikes Back, the bounty hunters, right? Here's the other bit of how do we define background characters, because we have the one scene of the bounty hunters. Boba Fett is not even on this list. He's a major character.
He's a major character.
Major to minor character, I would argue. But you got Bosk, you got Dengar, you got IG-88, you got Zuckuss, you got 4LOM. You have to pause Empire Strikes Back pretty much to take Dengar in. But he is known to us because we grew up with those action figures and he took on a life of his own.
He didn't fit in anything.
Yeah, Bosk has an actual interaction. So I guess my question is, for you both, when you defined a background character, does it matter how large their legend is outside of the movie as opposed to their screen time?
I think that's what Hal was talking about at the beginning. I think we have to keep it in the movies.
Yeah,
okay. but I guess the distinction I should have made is, like, there's a distinction between how much narrative is out there versus if another word had never been written about Bosk, people would still remember him because he made a cultural impact. So
which one is Bosk? Is he the one that looks like a sort of lizard man?
Yeah, he's the Trandoshan.
Oh, okay, yeah. Trandoshan, sure. I don't know what that is.
That's a lizard
but I do remember the toy.
Yeah.
And I do think, like, that's a big thing that they gave him a toy and that Kenner elevated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like IG-88 has become more notorious now because of IG-11 from The Mandalorian, because we got to see that in action. There's a great anthology book. I think it's called Tales of the Bounty Hunters that came out in the 80s or 90s that I remember reading. Yeah. That was like a really good, like, stories about each of the bounty hunters that you see on the bridge in Empire Strikes Back that are all waiting there. But Bosk is the only one that really, like, IG-88 was just a statue that they put there. I don't think he moves at all. Yeah, I don't think he moves.
No, not at all. He's nailed into the floor.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll shout out for Bosk as one of my possible suggestions.
Bosk is a great one.
Yeah.
I will say. Let me ask you this. What do you know about Torrin Farr?
Ooh, Torrin Farr is pretty cool because she honestly and a little bit sadly, she is one of the only other named women characters certainly in Empire Strikes Back.
Right. That's why I asked, because that threw me for a loop. I guess I just, like, my Bechdel dar is off, that I never realized that, oh my God, she has one line and she's the only other woman besides Leia that speaks in this movie.
Yeah, and she looks really competent. So she got that going for her. But yeah, so she's really cool. Got a great look, great performance by the actor. Yeah, so I'm all for Torrin Farr.
But do you know if she has like has a story been added about her to to any of the legends or anything? Like, it seems like something that big, a detail that big about this character, who I really, frankly, don't remember. And I think Bosk is going to wind up our one, at least at this point, coming from this movie, because where it stands now. But that's a huge deal, it feels like to me.
Yeah, and I don't, so there's the legend stuff that, grew for years and isn't canon now, and then there's the canon stuff now, and there's definitely stuff, stories of Torrin in both up to a point, but they don't, like, I'm not familiar with them. They don't loom super large. She's not one of these characters who has become super well known and beloved like some of these other minor characters.
They haven't sparked the imagination.
Exactly.
Using that metric, are there any others? Hal, do you have any others that you think of out of this?
I do. I have two. One is Zev Seneska, only because he looked like Jim Neighbors, and he's the guy who's flying the snowspeeder who spots Han flagging down, and he says, "Echo Base, this is Rogue 2. I found them. Repeat, I found them." Exactly like that. That is actual, like that is the music of his voice, but he's got like a smug smile on his face, and he looks so much like Jim Nabors that I just expected to say, "I found them." Repeat, "I found them." Shazam! That is,
oh my God.
That is one. The other, and Wilro Hood is sort of in a league of his own. The dude got his own action figure, but I didn't know he existed until I went and read about him. So there's nothing. He is a story I learned about after the fact, having seen Empire Strikes Back more than any of the other Star Wars films by far. The other one I want to throw out there is 2-1B, who is the surgical droid who treats Luke and puts him in the bacta tank. Number one, because he does a good job of bringing Luke back to full health. And number two, he is the filthiest droid. I mean, the Jawas are like driving through the sand. They've got that R2, R5D4?
Yeah.
With the bad motivator that breaks down. Even that droid is in better shape than like 2-1B. They couldn't give him an oil bath. They couldn't clean him up, just take a toothbrush to him or something. He just looks like he's about to good job, Luke. And then just the bottom of his face is going to fall off. Like that's the next thing that's going to happen.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's pretty great.
Look, I do love a doctor.
Yeah.
He's in medicine.
He's in medicine.
Can I suggest one more person from Empire?
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. I will see your Zev Sineska, Hal, and I will raise you a Major Bren Durlin. This is a character who is he's a minor rebel character. He tells Leia that the shield doors must be closed. And later he says, "Everyone to your stations. Let's go." But what makes him remarkable is he is played by Cliff Clavin. He is played by
John Ratzenberger.
Yeah. And the joy in my young heart when I was watching on Empire Strikes Back, a movie I thought I knew well on VHS, and said, "Wait, somebody got some cheers in my Empire Strikes Back."
Yeah.
Didn't they
hang on a second? Is that Ham from Toy Story?
Yeah. They cut the scene where he walks into the hangar bay and everybody goes, "Bren!" He was the norm in that case, even though he played Cliff Clavin.
Yes.
And he had a bunch of facts. The Sarlacc has got
oh my God.
tentacles. Nobody really talks about it, but they're more than you think. And also looks like Audrey too.
Jeez.
Yeah, that is a pretty good one. Especially because it's John Ratzenberger's face and not his voice that he is dubbed.
Yeah.
Dubbed in that.
Yeah. And the first line doesn't sound at all like him, but the "everyone to your stations, let's go" does almost sound like he's about to order a beer from Sam for some reason.
I wouldn't mind seeing this character make it into the finals. For that moment of, wait, is that John Ratzenberger? And also because the idea of at the end of this, we are going to have 9, some terrifying, some funny, some all weird characters duking it out for supremacy. And I like the idea that one of the ones duking it out is John Ratzenberger. Just for no other reason of memorability than he's John Ratzenberger.
I'm okay with that. Joseph, how do you feel?
Yeah, it works for me.
More so than Bosk?
Yeah, I can let Bosk go because I can also see the argument that Bosk is a more than a background character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With apologies to Torin Farr. Stand by, Ion Control, fire. All right, let's move on to episode 6. In episode 6, this one actually do have one that I want to, that I want to throw out in there.
Okay.
There's a shot, and I just discovered this character recently. I was watching Return of the Jedi, and they're on Endor, and it's when all of the rebels have been caught. The Empire has caught all the rebels, and there's a panning shot of all of these rebels sort of, with their hands tied or on their heads or in some state of surrender, with guns trained on them by the Empire. And there's one character that it just pans by very briefly, but it is a grizzled old man with a long gray beard, and he is dressed like a stormtrooper, but without a helmet. And I went, what is this tiny unit? Like, this tiny unit had been like, okay, Gramps, you're going to go dress like a stormtrooper and infiltrate. Like this whole, you know what he looked like? He looked like an ex-WWE wrestler. Who was like, "Hey guys, I got an idea. I'm gonna put me on one of these stormtrooper outfits. They're never gonna know it's me." And they're like, "But your beard is hanging out the bottom of the helmet." He's like, No, man, I got this. Do you know the guy? Are you familiar with the guy I'm talking about?
Yes, he is dressed as a biker scout. It's a cut scene where there was an attempt to actually, do an infiltration.
So there actually was a scene that he was in.
Yeah, it wasn't like they were just like, oh, that guy stood in the wrong place, on the shooting.
Well, no, I kind of love the idea just that like whoever was dressing the background people was like, ooh, put this on. That's kind of a provocative story. Like,
there's a really quick shot where you can see him putting the helmet on earlier.
Oh yeah,
before he gets captured. In the character's name, and you're gonna love this, is Nick Sant. Because he looks like Santa Claus, Saint Nick Sant. Nail it.
Oh, wow.
I also love the idea when they're all with their hands over their heads. They're like, gee, I wonder why they were able to suss us out. Think Nick's beard had anything to do with it? You couldn't have trimmed it? We talked to you about this before we even came down to the planet.
Yeah, I love the idea that Nick Sant is just like a really bad actor, that he's got that pro wrestler voice that you were doing. Like, hey guys, I'm BS 4242. I don't know. Open
and then
your
he
doors.
goes back to the guys and he's like, I think I convinced them.
And I gotta shout this out. This other detail I'll shout out real quick, just because if other Star Wars fans know it, it'll bother them. There was a whole weird controversy around this character, because there's the clone character Rex, who is in both the Clone Wars and Rebels. Mm-hmm. And at one point there was a light suggestion that they would retcon Nick Sant to be Rex. But then a lot of fans had issue with that, and now they've kind of backed away and said, you know what? Nick Sant is his own bearded weirdo. We'll let Rex be his own character.
Well, that's my pitch for this movie. Okay. There's obviously a million in Jabba's palace, and in assorted other, places on here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, very good.
Who's your pick from episode 6?
I'm going to pick 2. One is going to be Malakili the Rancor Keeper, only because it adds it's so bizarre because you have this fight. The Rancor is clearly evil because it's trying to devour Luke. And then once he kills it, all of a sudden, in comes Malakili the Rancor Keeper, who is beside himself with grief.
Oh, I love that guy.
He's like, all you see him do is like start to slobber cry because that's his job. The Rancor, we don't think the Rancor might not necessarily. It's just hungry. It's hungry.
Yeah, the Rancor is not. The Rancor is chaotic neutral.
I like to imagine, and if it's not the case, then shame on whoever came up with something different. That happened on that night. Malakili was going to abscond with the Rancor, and they were going to go away, and he was going to let the Rancor, like Harry and the Hendersons, he was going to take him up to Washington State and let him loose at a park somewhere and say, "Go, you bastard!" and punch him in the face. Is that true?
There's a bunch of stories about him too, because he had a bunch of stuff in Legends and now in modern canon. He's very sensitive in modern canon, following up on the understandably emotional reaction to his friend dying.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best, and it's kind of funny because you're like, haha. But it's actually the best acted of the minor background character moments. Yeah,
there's a lot of acting for sure.
Like he really did get a chance to choose some scenery in that.
Yeah, he legitimately makes people sad. Man, 6 has got a lot. Hal, did you have anybody else?
I did have one more, and I had a couple that I was going to do. One was going to be EV-99, who is you are a protocol droid, are you not? He's the jackass that he's the turncoat droid who tortures other droids and puts in the word for Jabba.
Yes.
But I want to, and Salacious Crumb, one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all, but he almost feels too major to me to be included in this. I want to focus on Cy Snoodles and the Max Rebo band. And the original version, not the one with Joe, what is it, Joe Yauza?
Joe Yauza, yes, and the backup singers, Grieta, Rystal Sant, and Lin Mi. You don't like?
No, I want the original. Give me the, and I think, but of that band, the background of that band is Droopy McCool, who not only looks like a stocking full of cotton balls that was just pinched off at a few places, but also has the name Droopy McCool. They had to come up with a name for him when the toy came out because it was a set. I remember getting it. I lost his, oh my God. He plays hold on. I have it. He plays the Chindinkalu
Yes.
flute. But I lost that immediately. But he's the background of the background, and yet I remember him because he's just sort of he's doing the Figrin Dan and the modal nodes move because that's all the guy in that suit could do. So that's my other nomination is Droopy McCool from Slice Noodles and the Max Rebo Band.
Okay, yeah. No, man, there's so many great things. I agree. I think Salacious B. Crumb is maybe a little bit too famous.
Salacious Crumb is that feels like a bigger character.
I'm going to throw out one. This is hard. I'm just ignoring the Ewoks, and I apologize. But I got to go for a weird. Janus Grijanis. He is one of the Imperial dignitaries. They have very little screen time, and I think they fire imagination. They're the old, creepy-looking dudes in purple robes with weird hats who you just see kind of whispering a little bit with Palpatine, like they're either talking about the most evil Sith secrets or just like, BSing about bad employees or trading recipes. You don't know what they're talking about. And I love that his name is Janus Grijanis.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And he has the hat he wears makes it look like he wrapped a towel around his head after getting out of the shower. Like he's just, and then the thing he's saying is like, well, it's plum actually. It's not like a solid purple. It's more of its own shade.
I'd like one of those.
I can get one.
Where did you get it? You got it. Oh, it's bespoke.
Custom. It's custom. Yes.
Ooh.
Everything I wear is custom.
Oh, fancy.
My head towel is custom because when I get out of the shower, my hair is very fussy.
Anyway, I like, girl, I get it.
I'm cutting myself off there for Return of the Jedi.
I'll say this also. I kind of like Max Rebo himself, specifically because I liked that he outside of the Star Wars universe, he got a role playing Hooter in Captain EO.
He's picked up. Listen, he's in the gig economy. It's whatever he can get.
I mean, did nobody who made Captain EO go, hey, maybe a light blue, long snouted sort of blob character who plays a round keyboard in a band in space? Maybe that's already been done.
Nope.
Didn't George Lucas produce that? Wasn't he involved in it? I know Francis Ford Coppola directed it.
He just did it again. Like, George, you sure we can? He's like, it's fine.
Oh yeah, just break him out of, we have him in a garage. Hold on, I'll go get him.
But look, I think the one that really is singing to me out of this is the guy who is the Rancor Wrangler.
Malakili?
Malakili.
Yeah.
Just cause like, you feel for the guy. Like it's an actual sort of, you never root for the bad guys in a Star Wars movie. Everything is so black and white.
It is really introducing a lot of gray that Luke just survived, and you're like, Luke, what an asshole. You hurt that guy's feelings when you saved your own life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's his friend. You couldn't have figured out another way to do it? He's so sad. Yeah, he does. I don't know if there'll be anybody we pick to be a finalist in this who will have done more with less.
Yeah.
Like he creates
Scenery,
an indelible
gobbling.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I would fight for Droopy McCool, but we already got Finger and Dan, so I'm good with Malakili.
Great.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, that knocks out the first three original trilogy of Star Wars. Why don't we take a brief break? And when we come back, we will tackle the rest of the Star Wars universe. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Here are some of the other wonderful podcasts on the Maximum Fun Network.
Hi, I'm Jackie Cation.
Hi, I'm Lori Kilmartin.
And we have a podcast called The Jackie and Lori Show. Who are you, Lori Kilmartin?
Oh, my God. So much pressure. I'm a stand-up. I've been doing stand-up since 1987. I'm a writer for Conan. I've written a couple books, have a couple CDs out, have a special out. Who are you, Jackie?
Well, I, too, am a stand-up comic since 1984. And I do the road like a maniac and don't have a cool writing job, but I have 4 albums out, working on a new album. We talk about stand-up. We talk about all the different parts of stand-up comedy. So that's the Jackie and Lori Show, and you should subscribe on Maximum Fun if you want to hear that.
And I would encourage you not to.
Hi, I'm Allie Gertz.
And I'm Julia Prescott, and we host
Round Springfield.
Round Springfield is a new Simpsons podcast that is Simpsons adjacent. In its topic, we talk to Simpsons writers, directors, voiceover actors, you name it, about non-Simpsons things that they've done because, surprise, they're all extremely talented.
Absolutely. For example, David X. Cohen worked on The Simpsons, but then created a little show called Futurama. That's our very first episode.
Yeah.
So tune in for stuff like that with Yardley Smith, with Tim Long, with different writers and voice actors. It's going to be so much fun. And we are every other week on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. Let's talk about space some more.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to episode 1. Minor characters in episode 1. This is the thing, like, I don't know these 3 movies nearly as well as the original trilogy. In fact, there were scenes in Attack of the Clones that I was like, nope, I'm fast forwarding through this because Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman talking to one another is ruining this movie.
You don't want them to watch them float some fruit on a date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is it?
The sand gets everywhere, Mark.
Oh,
it gets everywhere.
Coarse and rough. I'll give a quick shout out. This is my advice. If you want to watch those with a different eye, Star Wars goes back and forth between being an epic myth versus digging into like reality, a little bit of realism. Watch all of Attack the Clones with the mindset of Anakin is a confused teenager who has been thinking about this woman for years. He has not learned any game from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he is trying his best.
Yeah. I will. Next time I go back and watch it in a few years.
Fair enough. I get where you're
Next time I watch episode, any of the other ones in a week or so, because I turn them on with fair regularity, but not 1 through 3. So
Got it.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw one out here, knowing that it's not gonna be a finalist, but just because the prequels are not for me. That's what I'd say. In the buffet of Star Wars, I pass that over. It's like the blue Jell-O with sour cream in it for me. I'm gonna go with Greedo, who is a background character only in The Phantom Menace, and then appears in a more expanded role later on. I know he won't win. I'm trying to keep my hands clean, and I can't. There's nobody like maybe C.O.
Are you talking about? I think you're talking about Wald. Are you talking about the young Rodian?
Yeah, isn't that Greedo?
That is not Greedo. That is Wald. W-A-L-D.
Oh, well then I'll go with
vote for that.
I'm gonna go with Wald, the little Rodian.
Okay, yeah, he's got a lovely dance. A dance of victory when Anakin wins the pod race. He's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a good kid.
Mark, are there any of these? I know the prequels are not your favorite bag. Are any of these?
In the pod race, there are a couple of fun people.
Okay.
I like Clegg Holdfast a lot. That's fun. Yeah. I mean, there's not really any that jump to mind.
Yeah. So Clegg Holdfast is the one who is inexplicably pompous and ambiguously sort of royal Shakespearean company.
And now you know why I loved this tiny minor moment.
But it's great. It's a ton of flavor in the pod race. He does a little bow. It's great. I like him a lot. So a couple that I would shout out is Aura Singh. So Aura Singh is a pretty cool looking bounty hunter, a woman bounty hunter. Her species is a Paladuvan. And she is seen just up high in this turret watching the pod race for 1 second. And the theory was that she was going to be planted there to be used more in future movies. She wasn't used in the future movies. She was used in, Clone Wars a bunch, but she was also like advertised, and she was one of these characters that people were like, oh, cool looking bounty hunter. So I think she's high up for just sort of cool looking person who is there for 1 second and fires your imagination.
I mean, if that's what the job is of these characters. And she is cool looking. I mean, with her crazy top knot ponytail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, this one, like I said, I leave this one to you guys. I'm not as well versed in.
Okay. So
I'll let you pick, Joseph.
Well, Hal, I'll go to you. I'm going to give you a selection of the super weirdo Jedi Council members. Because for me, another part of this joy that we've only talked about a little bit is when one of the background characters are just freakishly, distractingly weird. I would put like Droopy McCool, like, in that category. So for the Jedi, we have Oppo Rancisis, who is the large snake that looks like they're always doing some kind of meditation.
But he's got a beard that would look great underneath a biker scout helmet.
Yeah, exactly. He's a large snake guy. Then we have Yarl Poof, who is the Jedi with he's got the super long neck. He's in the background of the council scene, his head's just kind of bobbing in a way that's perfectly distracting. It's like they made him to be like a real extra who won't stand still because they want attention. And then there's the infamous Yaddle, the female Yoda, who is never seen or really talked about much again in modern canon.
I can't. Yaddle looks like the female gremlin in Gremlins 2, the new batch. And that is nothing like it makes sense that whatever, I know we've never learned Yoda's race, like it's an unidentified race. Maybe we'll learn more in season 2, The Mandalorian. We hope it's been shot. So we get a shot at seeing it this year. That it feels like such a lazy, like, a female, it's that thing that I've talked about a bunch of times where when you meet somebody and you've never met their family, you assume that their family all looks like them in different outfits. Kind of like when you see the family line in like a haunted mansion. It's like Baron, Duke, World War I, World War II, same face. That's what this feels like. Out of these, and I think I have to take Yariel Poof because looks so weird. Like, it just looks like he shouldn't be able to function as a creature. Just like his like neck would flop over at his head. Like he has trouble sort of.
Yarl Poof. It does seem like it was just like, he to me looks like they ran out of ideas and someone just took a Stretch Armstrong and went, there's a character. Stretched his neck out.
And he's a Quirmian. Is that right?
Yeah. I love him because he is so distracting. He's a different approach on background because, like, he's supposed to be background, but he's not. I remember coming out of that movie, all those different opinions, but everybody going like, what was the deal with the guy with the neck and the head bob? What was all that about?
Yeah. Look, I'm totally happy with him moving on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yaddle. Oh, Yarl
Poof.
Yarl Poof. All right. Episode 2. We got to start getting through these faster, guys. This is going to be a 10-hour episode.
Okay. Mission accepted.
All right. Great. Then tell us who it is for episode 2, because I don't remember that movie terribly well at all.
Okay. I'm trying to pick favorites to best highlight it. So we got a lot of Jedi. Dexter Jetster is a great character, but he is on screen a lot. So if we're really going, Elon Sleaze-Begano is infamous for his funny name, but he has a dialogue interaction. Same thing with Jocasta Nu. I've already got a couple Jedi. So let's talk about Kit Fisto. Even though he's a Jedi, he doesn't have any dialogue.
Kit Fisto is one of those that I remember. Like, you look at them, you're like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah. He's a Nautilin. He is, kind of an underwater Jedi, though we don't get to see him underwater in the movie. But he became famous because he smiles a lot. He's the Jedi he's kind while he kills you.
See, that's nice.
I like Kit Fisto.
I mean, he's from a place called Glee, so it makes sense.
Was Ki-Adi-Mundi, was he only in Revenge of the Sith?
No, he's 1, 2, and 3. Council. Yeah, he's one of the major Jedi, 1, 2, and 3.
But he feels like a background. He doesn't have much dialogue, right?
He doesn't have much, but he does have dialogue, and he does have one of the significant Order 66 deaths in Revenge of the Sith.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fine. I like Kit Fisto. I actually know who that is. Also,
and I like the smiliness.
The smiliness actually does stand out. So I think that is a good choice for this movie. He also don't we also see him die in Order 66?
Kit Fisto?
Yeah.
Not explicitly, no.
Okay. So maybe he survived.
Hey, you know what? That would be nice.
Oh, yes, we do see him die. He's killed by Palpatine. Excuse me.
Yeah. He tries to fight him off.
Yeah, he's killed by Sidious. Yep.
Yeah, that's the same scene where Mace Windu dies, because he comes with Mace Windu.
Oh, that's right. He comes in with him.
Yeah. Kit Fisto. Right. Yeah.
He goes down very quickly. Probably the smile on his face.
He lasts longer than the other two Jedi.
Look,
the fourth.
Yeah. All right. Revenge of the Sith. I wonder if we're all going to have the same one. I'm curious what yours is, Joseph, and if mine is the same as yours.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I kind of think, and only because he is one of the few background characters I can remember, and he has a single line of dialogue, which is, Master Skywalker, there are too many of them.
Who is this?
I put him in the list. I did. It's
oh my God, who gets murdered by
that's
Anakin.
Terrible.
But
Source
you remember him.
He is very memorable, and I think
you know
it's
what?
good acting.
I think it's a great idea because he is the character that, like, his job is to make you go, oh, do you not think Anakin's evil? Watch this. This kid's one job is to be adorable and vulnerable, and he does it.
Yeah, that's great. I'll throw out one more from Revenge of the Sith, and that is Chairman Papanodia. He is a Pantoran. He is a blue, sort of regal alien that we see in the Galaxy's Opera House when Anakin is going to meet Palpatine. And he is played by George Lucas. So it is the sort of ultimate background character in some ways.
There he is.
Yeah. When he's a baron now.
Oh yeah,
I'm changing mine to that Papanodia.
I don't know. Oh man. It's so ridiculous.
Did you ever hear the story of Papanodia, the director?
Oh my God. Look, again, like I said, I don't know these terribly well, but
yeah,
I think that kid is really accomplishing something.
You care about the acting, and especially for a child actor in movies where the director didn't always do the most discussing with the actors. Mm-hmm. I believe his delivery is great in that little step back. It's terrifying, heartbreaking.
Yeah. That's who gets my vote.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
In the interest of time, I'm all for Source Bandine.
All right.
Do you want to go to the offshoots, or do you want to go to the close of the Skywalker saga?
Let's take a little detour to Rogue One and Solo, and then we'll jump back into the last three.
Okay.
How does that sound?
All right.
Great.
So.
Okay, I'm scrolling through here quickly to see what best offers I can make. What do you fellows have?
I think Bib Fortuna is a really fun character. So the fact that his cousin Beezer Fortuna is in this movie is really, cause you watch it, you're like, oh, that's Bib Fortuna. Nope, it's Beezer. It's Beezer, you jerk. Beezer Fortuna.
Who is this?
He's a pretty great background character. You see, he's with Saw's group of proto sort of rebels, the Partisans.
Right.
And when you see him, especially if you're an old school fan, you're like, oh, that's kind of like Bib Fortuna. If Bib Fortuna was starring in The Long Weekend, he looks rough.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now.
Yeah,
yeah, he looks like a heroin Bib Fortuna.
Yeah, which is fun all by itself. But then you learn his name is Beezer.
Yeah, Beezer Fortuna. Oh my God. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't recognize any of these.
I will shout out for another character who I think if I describe him, you will remember him, Mark, is Bistan. Bistan is one of the only aliens that we see with the rebels in the Battle of Scarif. He is, because he was featured in some of like the promotional stuff early on. He is a weird kind of little monkey dude who screams a lot and it operates a big heavy gun and he shoots the knee.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at this guy right now. Yeah, he's a tiny, he looks like a monkey commando.
There's so many great choices in Rogue One, but I'm gonna push hard for Bistan because he is going back to, the spirit of Momanda Dunn. He's the character that we learn next to nothing about. You see him in the promotional materials, you're like, wow, who's that? And then the movie comes out and he was just there for a few seconds.
Yeah, who's this paratrooper monkey?
Exactly.
You know what? You don't have to push that hard. I'm 100% on board with
I'm on board with Bistan as well.
That's so good.
Bistan.
As soon as I saw the picture, I was like, yep, sure.
All right, let's talk about Solo.
Yeah.
This might be one of the only other humans that I would throw on this list, but that scene where he gives Han Solo his last name, Solo, is so wonderfully retcon silly. But that actor does a good job of it. It's just the bureaucrat that Han has to get past when he's signing up to join the fight.
Yeah.
And he names him Solo. To give a character that small, he always reminds me of Frank Oz. On prophylactic, soiled. But just to have that tiny, it's almost like a cameo. It's like it would be a cameo for some huge megastar to play.
Yes, absolutely. And I do think he does a great job. He's got that. I love that choice of that little sniff of like, I don't really care about anything. And I just got to get you through here. But he also he sets Han up for, whether it works for you or not, the thematic point of that scene.
Right.
He does a great delivery on come on, who are your people? For Han to say, I don't have any. So he does both, I think, the kind of the comedy and the drama, if it works for you.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple other heavy hitters for background weirdos in Solo. Yep. Do you mind, Hal?
Please. I wish you would.
One of my favorites is Lulilo Primak, who is named after Louis Prima. He is the upside down frog floating in a vat that is also a great saloon singer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm looking at him right now.
Right?
Figure Dan wishes he could get those jobs.
He's impossibly weird. Just beautifully, perfectly weird.
And he's the singer. How does he not sound like when he sings? Because he's in a jar of fluid.
It just those amazing just vocals of his. He's got a little microphone in his tank. Before we knew his real name, I called him Vat Weirdo.
Sure. His real name. I love it.
And we're not counting necessarily some of this, but his expanded actual story is that he is in the galaxy an old world crooner. He is he sang before the Clone Wars, and he's kind of this retired guy on his retirement tour.
Oh my God.
Hal, you got anybody else?
Yeah, I want to go with Therm Scissor Punch. Number one, because he's weirdly, he looks like a Triffid. He looks like the Swamp Thing had made love to a Triffid, and that was
but with lobster claws.
But he has lobster claws.
Which, by the way, I want to now just refer to lobsters as scissor punchers.
Yeah.
Because I will no longer think of a lobster claw as anything other than a scissor puncher.
And he's a gambler. That's really all you know, is he's at that table at the beginning when Han loses to Lando before he returns and discovers how to beat him later on.
Therm Scissor Punch is great. He's got the ridiculous name. I had the privilege of being in the room where his name was first revealed, because his name was revealed on a trading card that was only available at Denny's. And I went to this weird promotional junket where an executive from Denny's was like, well, we're going to have a Solo menu, and I don't know, you nerds can get these trading cards, and look at this guy. It's kind of it's Therm Scissor Punch. We're like, oh.
I mean, look, I have no problem with throwing the guy that said, Solo under the bus for a character named Therm Scissor Punch.
But I also love the fact that there's a crooner in a jar.
The crooner in the jar is pretty great. And the fact that his name is Lulio Primak.
Yeah.
That feels like the pasta. I think it should be Lulio Primak.
Yeah, that works for me.
Because I remembered him. I had to look up Therm. I saw the name Therm Scissor Punch is Chef's Kiss, but.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lulio Primak, I now, as soon as you said he's the guy in the jar, because I liked Solo, I liked Rogue One, I immediately forgot both of them, and I saw both of them multiple times in the theater, but they just didn't stick with my memory because for whatever reason. That's a separate story to tell. But as soon as you said Singer in a Jar, I was like, oh yeah, right, I do remember that, and it's brilliant.
You're making me so happy.
That's really what we're here to do. All right, now we go to the sequels. What do we call that? The new trilogy? Is there a
sequels is generally what people say? Sequel trilogy.
Sequel trilogy.
The final chapter in the final 3 chapters in the Skywalker saga. I will throw out. There are 2 on here who immediately I remember and know and love.
Okay.
One is Unkar Plutt, the big 1/4 portion. The guy that wants to buy BB-8 just because he so functions within his society. You know what I mean? He is, of course that is that guy who is there in that job in that place. The guy behind the cage at the pawn shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's also, basically just if he was just wearing a regular human wife beater, it would not surprise me.
He might have an advantage over some of these other characters because he was played by Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
Oh, was he?
In the suit. Simon
Yes.
Pegg was fully in a giant suit as Unkar Plutt.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. Who else you got?
The other one that I have is Harder Colonia. Because that is such a great moment when she is nursing Chewbacca back to health and he's rambling about something in Wookiee and she goes, "Oh, you must be so brave." And he just kind of like, "I am," like Chewbacca just nodding for that is that moment, this very human moment of a doctor condescending to the vanity of a patient is so funny to me.
Yeah.
And it's just such a perfect interaction with Chewbacca that says so much about Chewbacca without him having to say anything and just so little because he is brave, but he's also, he's cocky and he can be childish and like it's kind of a perfect moment for Chewbacca facilitated by another character.
You have such a great, exquisite taste for these beautiful character actor moments where, somebody really gets to shine and gets an opportunity to knock it out of the park.
As a character actor, those are the moments that I notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hal, do you got some?
I want to go for the First Order Trooper, who I don't know that he has a name. I don't think it's here. I don't think he's here on this list, but he is the one on whom Rey first practices the Jedi mind trick. Only notable to me, and he probably has too much dialogue because that is Daniel Craig in the First Order Trooper. He was filming Skyfall and they brought him in for a day and didn't tell anybody until later on that was him. And it's a fun scene and like a good.
That's pretty cool.
I know I couldn't get the stormtrooper who hit his head on the frame through, so I'm trying to get Daniel Craig in a First Order Trooper costume. I don't think he'll go either.
That's FN 1824.
Thank you, FN 1824. Just gonna put that down.
Excellent.
What do you have?
Yeah, I got a couple real quick. Harder Colonia is great. The sort of ultimate background character is Constable Zuvio. This is a little bit controversial. He's such a background character that he is not actually in the film.
Wait, what? Guys, I knew we were going deep in this. I didn't know we were getting out of the pool.
I'll say this very quickly. They led hard with him in some of the advertising. They made multiple different action figures of him, and then he is nowhere to be found in the film. They just cut him entirely. And he has become a delightful Star Wars meme of people demanding a Disney Plus Constable Zuvio show. Justice for Zuvio.
Oh my God.
The other one a couple other ones real quick. The one that I was delighted to be able to add into this list is Judah Friedlander. Because he's in Maz's Cantina. He turns towards the camera quickly. It's obviously Judah Friedlander. And he hasn't been given a name. Even in this era of Star Wars, you can imagine his name is Judah Friedlander.
It's just straight up Judah Friedlander with the goggles on his head.
Yeah. So those are a couple that I like.
It seems like 3 of the big ones that have come out of this are cameos: Simon Pegg, Daniel Craig, and Judah Friedlander.
I don't know if this is the spirit of this or not. But I feel like picking somebody out of The Force Awakens who wasn't even in the movie is a pretty baller move. I do remember him.
Like, if the whole point of this is you see them on screen and go, "Oh, my imagination is going."
You can see him on a bag of Tostitos. Does that count?
Oh my God. What's his character's name again?
Constable Zuvio. I'd be fine with going with Colonia because I think that's a great pick. There's another great woman, Bazine Natel. She's just, in terms of just somebody who looks badass, she is the one who informs the First Order that BB-8 is at Maz's castle. Another thing of just if we want more cool looking characters, she's a super cool looking bounty hunter type.
I mean, I will say this, what Constable Zuvio has going for him is if you type the word constable into Google, the first thing that comes up is
Zuvio.
Boo.
You know what? I have to agree with you. The bit of business with Chewbacca is one of the parts of that movie that is very funny.
It's just a sweet, charming moment. That's who gets my vote at this point. But I could be swayed, but that's who I think is.
No, I will step away from the irony of Zuvio and embrace the warmth and talent of Colonia.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's she takes it.
All right, episode 8. We're almost done. Home stretch, guys.
Oh yeah. Okay. Hal, do you got some in here?
I mean, the Broom Kid.
The Broom Kid.
Temery Blagg is the one that I remember because he appears a couple times. I don't think he has any lines at all. He has like the shh with
he has the most, maybe the most important moment in the movie though.
Yeah. And again, I fall on, I don't know that we've discussed I don't think we've done the best of of the sequels yet, but I'm one of the people who's very pro Last Jedi. And that moment is pivotal. Too. It's pivotal from, that is like a moment that opens up the entire universe in a way that almost nothing else in any of the other films do in terms of this is not about one family.
Anyone can be force sensitive.
Yes.
Yeah, and I will put on my Star Wars nerd hat for a minute and say I think Last Jedi did a great job of highlighting that point. I think that's always been the point. It gets a little bit lost, but like you go back to New Hope and Luke Skywalker does not make that killing shot on the Death Star unless Han makes the choice to turn around. Leia. So I think you're right that it does celebrate that idea that anybody can have it. But what I love about him is Last Jedi is working with this idea of what is the value of the myth of Star Wars versus what is the value of the reality. And I love that he is the payoff for Luke allows himself to be the myth and he inspires this little kid. And it's that message to all of us. It's okay to play with your action figures and imagine because it inspires you to go on and do great things like Temery Blagg, Broom Boy is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a vote there. I'm going to throw out one other just because I want you guys to Google him.
Okay.
He is in the Canto Bight sequence, and his name is Neeper's Panpick.
Okay.
First, just, let that roll around in your mind. The name
Neeper's Panpick.
Neeper's Panpick.
Sure.
He is a private dick hanging out at the Canto Bight casino, so he's totally in that sort of style of old filmmaking.
And he is a dandy.
He is a dandy.
Yeah.
But look at that face.
Yeah. It looks like he's always going,
Yeah, he has the mouth that is permanent. He has a great big, he looks like a great big bug-eyed alien with a mouth that is permanently open. And
he's
Sonic the Hedgehog's teeth. Just like human teeth for God knows what reason.
Worth saying Neeper's Panpick just for that.
Oh my goodness.
I'll also shout out Tali Lintra. I think she's actually too big of a character for background. She is the A-Wing pilot that a lot of people are really charmed by. I love the character. It's got just a great presence, a great performer. So I wanted to shout her out, but I think she's too big.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I agree. All right, one more movie.
All right, final movie, and that is episode 9. And who do we have as the new characters in episode 9?
Well, hold on. Because I watched the sheet come together, and I didn't. I stood by and did nothing. So this is on me. I see a lot of entries for the voices that talk to Rey to help her get up. Now,
this was. Go ahead. Sorry.
Granted, when I saw this movie, I almost 5 minutes before it ended walked out of the theater. I reached a point where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And yet, who's the moron? I paid $20 to own it on digital just because, I have all the other ones. I should have this one too and have all the Star Wars movies on digital. I see a lot of those. I guess, and we can come back to that. No, let's jump into it. Go ahead, Joseph, because you wanted to say something, and I know I'm always the am I the Oscar Madison to your Felix Unger when it comes to Star Wars at times?
Possibly. No, in terms of the movie, I know that the movie really divides people, and it's a kind of a fascinating. It's like, why bother taking a Myers-Briggs test? Just go see Rise of Skywalker. People have strong reactions to it, and I appreciate that. And I don't think anybody's opinion is correct. I say on a podcast about picking the correct answer.
For sure.
For me, Rise of Skywalker it gets back to the pulp and the serial tradition of the original films. It moves fast. It has a sense of fun, but more than anything for me, It is about choosing to believe that you have power, choosing that knowing that you get to decide how you use that power. Rey does that. Kylo does that. It is about Rey choosing kindness and that being kind of her natural go-to thing and other people trying to talk her out of it. And the other big thing is it just has this theme again and again that moved me so much of we all feel like we are alone a lot of the time and we always have more support than we think. That to me is what Rey is experiencing when she finally opens herself up to hearing those voices. That's what that, Poe moment is like when he's lost hope and suddenly all the people in the galaxy come in and the Admiral First Order says, well, that's not a Navy. It's just people. And I know for some people it's corny. For me, it successfully hit me right in the feels of what I desperately need to feel sometimes of I have power. I need to use it and I'll still feel alone in that great flood of relief and joy when you are about to fall down and other people are there to pick you up.
I agree with you 100%
that people doesn't.
that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, in that moment, I felt the same way in that moment. I didn't have the dislike for this movie that Hal did. I thought it was fine. Like, I was like, let's close it out. There were some details in it where I was like, what? But Last Jedi, you just changed what they did. But I thought it was like, fine. It's a huge, you're right. You're not going to please everybody.
I do want to add.
So that moment, hold on a second. So that moment, I think is an important moment for what the movie was successfully or not trying to say. Go ahead, Hal. Sorry.
I just want to add that as much as I disliked it, I am very happy for anybody who enjoyed it. And it helped me. The credit I will always pay, and I used this analogy earlier, is that Star Wars is, growing up when we had the original trilogy, and that was pretty much it. There was the Droids animated series, Battle for Endor, Caravan of Courage, the holiday special, if you were lucky enough to see it or find a VHS of it. But that is what Star Wars was. And then as the 80s progressed into the 90s, the prequels came out and the sequels, I think everybody's protective of whatever they watched as a child. And you don't have to love everything. It doesn't lessen me not liking. If I like 5 of the 11 films, that's fine. Then the other ones, it's a buffet. Everybody can have what they want from it, and everybody can have a different experience, which is kind of the magic of Star Wars altogether. There are people for whom the prequels are the best, and kids who grew up on the sequel trilogy that are like, Rise of Skywalker is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm so glad that they get to have that experience that we had as kids watching those original 3 films. So that I just want to add that.
Okay.
And we can move on.
I know. Good. Thank you for the caveat. It's Babu Frick.
Oh, well, see, Babu Frick is amazing.
A big character, though.
So far, the one thing that everyone in the world seems to agree on about Rise of Skywalker is, hey, droid go blank blank. It's all great. I wonder if he's too big. I got a couple I want to pitch and see if they light your fire. First is Albrecht. Albrecht is the evil Sith monkey who repairs Kylo Ren's helmet, and I love him because he is simply an evil monkey. He's pretty much just a monkey with Yoda's ears, and they said, good, that's great. We'll stop there.
Yep. That's pretty great. I like his RoboCop visor that he uses when he's welding.
Yeah.
Working at it.
He's pretty great.
He does look like a tough little guy, too.
Oh, yeah. You would not want to meet him in a dark alley, right?
Right.
And then Colone. He is driving the treadable, the thing that Lando is in, and Lando tells him where to go, and then he just says, okay. He's an inexplicable Muppet in the middle of this.
I can't believe you know all of these characters. It is mind-blowing to me.
And he has technology eyes. He doesn't have eyes. He has 3. Are those his actual eyes?
I don't know.
I guess they are. Because I'm looking at him, am I looking at him from the front? But it's a side view because I see his little. He's almost like an ostrich without a bill. Or a beak.
Yes, he is.
It's almost like he looks like a little ostrich without a beak, and then his eyes have the big black eye with 3 blue dots in it. Did not remember him at all.
Okay, fair enough.
I would say for that.
The only one of these that I remember is Babu Frick.
Okay, well, there's a power in that. The last one I'll mention is Oma Trace. He is John Williams' cameo.
Okay. I mean, look.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, and I think that your mileage might vary for how much does it matter that it's a beloved, amazing person doing a cameo.
Right.
And Babu Frick does I feel like he's in it a lot because he shows up for the battle at the end too. And he's like, I don't know, got to make the plane go. Hey, hey. And everybody's like, Krusty the Clown's here, but he's a little alien.
Yeah.
I was so far gone. I appreciate Babu Frick, but I was so far gone by the time he showed up that I was like, great. Now this guy.
Look, I'm happy to.
Adorable.
If we have not given a cameo yet, have we? Oh, we have. It wasn't even a cameo. It wasn't a cameo. He just was a day player. Working. It's not a cameo if you're not famous yet.
By the way, he has a better cameo in Superman 2 as one of the guys working at Mission Control.
Okay.
NASA at the beginning.
I'm happy to give this one to John Williams.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Okay, why not? Yeah. One more award for him.
Exactly.
All right, so I have our finalists.
Okay.
Here's the list. We have 11 finalists. We have Yaril Poof from.
You're going to have to remind me who all of these people are.
Yes, he's the long neck Jedi.
Okay.
On the council, the Cormian. Then we have Kit Fisto from episode 2. Sors Bandim. Did I get that right? Did I say it right? No, I didn't. I can tell by the way you said that.
Oh, no, you did. I was just thinking about him and I was sad.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sors Bandim, the little kid who got killed. Figrin Dan, the clue horn player and leader of the modal nodes with a butthole for a mouth. We have, then we have, from episode 5, we have Major Bren Derlin, Cliff Clavin in space. Followed by Malakili, the sad rancor keeper who loses his friend and probably his job. Harder Colonia, the doctor medic who tends to Chewie and says he must be so brave. And then episode 8 is Tamari Blag, the broom kid. So 2 children on our list. Episode 9 is Oma Trace, who's the John Williams cameo. Rogue One is Bistan, the little monkey who shoots at knees. And Lulio Primac, the jarred singer from Solo.
All right, I want to take a temperature. I want to do a 1, 2, 3, go and see if there's any character that we're like, okay, or if there's one that we all 3 say.
Okay.
Or if there's only 2, like, you know what I mean? Like if 2 of us say one.
Is there a majority right now?
Yeah. Is there a majority?
You're looking for a majority. Okay.
Because right now, I think it's a 2-dog race.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. I do too.
Ooh.
Okay.
But I have my top one.
I have my top as well.
Okay.
Do you know what your top would be if you were forced to choose right now, Joseph? Do you have one in your mind that you could say aloud on the count of 3?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Let's try it.
Go ahead.
1, 2, 3.
Malakili.
Malakili was the other one I had, Hal. I think it was a 2-way battle between Figrin Dan and Malakili. Figrin Dan being which one did you say, Joseph?
Lulilo Primac,
the little. So 2 band members.
Said something different. That is the worst version of a count off that we've ever done. I love it.
We're already at 90 minutes, guys. We got to do this.
But you know what? That gives us 3 finalists. I think that gives us Lulio Primac, it gives us Figrin Dan, and it gives us Malakili. Because we each fought for somebody different, and that's a good way to get 3 finalists.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed?
Okay. Yeah. I'll throw out my bias. I love Malakili, but I would really consider that he has a scene. He has a conflict that he works through.
Sure.
And in full spirit of background character, to me, my bias, that's a little bit more alien weirdo. So I would go a little bit more toward Figrin Dan or Lulilo Primac than Malakili, even though I feel bad making him cry again.
Right. I think the fact that he's a human character was the reason that I went with Figrin Dan over him. For me, Figrin Dan as versus Louis Prima, Space Louis Prima. So Benny Goodman versus Louis Prima is, if I saw that Space Louis Prima, I would go, I've seen that character before. What movie is that guy from? If I saw him out of context. But if I see Figrin Dan out of context, I'm like, Mos Eisley Cantina. I know what song he's playing. I know what his dance move looks like.
Yeah, I think there's something to, and the fact that he doesn't sing, you really only see him like swing around.
Yeah.
I think you see him during both of the songs. You see him during the initial song and then later on during the, I think he is much more of a background character for that reason, because he's not featured in the way that, what's his name? Like Yowza Mabowza, the guy they put into, the guy they special editioned in with Cy Snoodles. Like Cy Snoodles is not a background character to me because you see her dancing. She's featured heavily. He's not even featured in the shot. It's him and a bunch of guys who look, it's like a ton of Biff on stage all together, where he's like, what? This is some like weird Mumford and Sons where they're all playing the same note at the same time too. Like, couldn't
but you remember that guy.
Yeah.
I think one of the other standout things for a true background Star Wars character, even though we're going, traditional, going original trilogy, first movie, I think one of the powers is if you say the character's name to people and people all come out with the same detail. And if you say Figrin Dan to people who know Star Wars, almost all of them will immediately say, just whaling.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And people of the galaxy, that's what we say to you as well. The best background character in Star Wars. And Adam Richards, I said your name one more time, but that is it. That was the last one. I said it one more time. I'm sorry I did it already. Adam, you know what you did. The best background character appears in the first film in a scene that captured people's imaginations when it first came out in a way that we can't even comprehend, because nobody had seen a bunch of weird looking aliens like that. And among them all, one of the few very well lit ones is not the guy who's fingering his tongue so he can talk. Who's that, Joseph?
Porky Pig? I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, the guy, there's like one guy who's like tapping his tongue to talk.
That is the power of this podcast. You've broken me. I don't know the guy who plays with his tongue off the top of my head.
And that's the point. You don't know who that is, but you know Figrin Dan is because he's the band leader. Figrin Dan, the man in the band, the leader of the Modal Nodes, is your best Star Wars background character. Asked and answered.
Boom. We did it, guys. Joseph Scrimshaw, man, thank you for coming back and getting us through this marathon. Well done, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I could talk about Star Wars forever, so I hope I held it in check a little bit.
Oh, you did beautifully. Tell us where people can hear you talk about Star Wars and your podcast Obsessed and everything else that you're doing right now. You have shows at Geeky Teas going on. What's going on?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram is @Joseph Scrimshaw, and then you can go to my website, josephscrimshaw.com. That has a link to Obsessed. That has a link to that Star Wars podcast, Force Center, comedy albums, upcoming shows, all that stuff on josephscrimshaw.com.
Fantastic. Well, this topic is closed, but there are many more to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets. Check out the Maximum Fun subreddit, or
you can email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or go to the Facebook group. Talk about the Star Wars characters in the background that you love and why. We'll listen to it there. I'll read it. Mark doesn't. He never gets on Facebook. That's facebook.com/groups/WeGotThisPodcast. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, and guest researcher Joseph Scrimshaw.
Yeah.
Graphic designer Uri Kelman and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And, of course, to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And Hal, and to the people of the world, I will have you know that on my quarantine dry erase board, I have written reconnect to Facebook on my list of things that I need to do. So it's on my quarantine list. But in the meantime, thank you to the people of the world for giving us a chance to sit and talk about something that clearly we all love enough to do a deep dive into it. I hope that everybody had a web browser open and was following along as we mentioned each of these characters, so they could see them and go, oh yeah, that person. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. This is a lot of fun. And thanks to you, we're still doing it. So for Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Audience supported.